HMO Sobbies. It's the trickster. Welcome to another edition of 30 with Tony. Anyway, did you see that farce Joe Biden last night? I could do a better speech and I have been dead for 30 years. As always, we have the best news, the bossest music, and the most amazing and historic classic clips. So let's go MAGA and ride that groove line to victory. Hit it, HMO Sobbies.
Well, hi, Kemosabi's. It's Tony D'Angelo. This is 30 with Tony. It is January 16th, 2025. Ada Domini in the year of our Lord. So happy to have you here for another edition of 30 with Tony. Very, very grateful to each and every one of you who follow this show diligently, who share it to your friends, who comment on it, who come to me and tell me what they like and what they want to see, and constructive criticisms, which I am always for. I am, when I do this, I'm like the Lexus car company, the relentless pursuit of perfection. You never get perfection. You never, ever, ever get perfection. But we want to try to get as close to it as we possibly can. But wherever you be watching from, near and far, so happy to have you here today. Very grateful to our video and music contributors. We had a lot of great music last week, and the great JFK video, and I got a lot of compliments on that, to which I'm grateful, because I want you to have a show that you like watching, that you look forward to seeing, and I'm doing my best to do that, and I'm very grateful to you for making me do better, because that's what it's all about. We all have to encourage each other to do better, especially in the environment that we're in, seeing the gross mismanagement, political incompetence, and you name it. It's terrible to watch. So we have had to become better, each and every one of us, only to fight off the political, global, governmental evil and stupidity that's been surrounding us, especially for the last 5 years. So I'm going to start today's show off with a very simple question. Who do you want to see run for office? Governor, senator, congressman. I'm not in as much talking about maybe like a town office or city council or something like that. Those are important offices. I'm not saying they're not, but what type of a person do you want to see run for office? Now, I imagine if you're watching this show and if you like me and if you like what I do and if you find what I do interesting, you're probably much more of a Republican conservative bent than you would be, say, to be a liberal Democrat progressive bent, as such, in your thinking. I'm not saying, not a case of political party. What political party do you belong to? I myself, I say I'm an independent. In legal terms in Connecticut, I am an unaffiliated, largely because I would like to be a Republican. But for all the years that I've been voting as a, shall I say, an aware citizen, for many years I was a Republican. Then finally, maybe about 30 years ago, I went to be an independent because I did not see republicanism in Connecticut as such, the way that republicanism really is, even though more often than not, I will vote, in some cases disgustedly, for Republicans, have voted for several Democrats along the way. But be all of that as it may, what type of a person do you want to see run for office? Who do you want to see run for office? And this is this is a question that was brought up to me over the weekend because I think it's an interesting one. And where I want to ask you is I asked myself this question and I said, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I certainly don't want to see, the whatever you want to call it, the litany of tired, non-committed, run from anything controversial, try to please everybody, mealy mouth, so-called Connecticut Republican types that have been circulating back and forth through the years and or are currently I don't want to see that because to me, it doesn't fix what's critically wrong in the state. I want to see somebody who's going to do a number of certain things. And I cannot approach that question that was asked to me and a number of others enthusiastically because I do not have an enthusiastic response. What I do have, however, is a need, a question, shall I say, a place to begin our analysis from, because I can't answer the question. Now, what I am going to say is this. Me, myself, and I do not speak for you. I do not speak for anybody. I speak for myself. I cannot and will not get excited or even interested in any candidate if they will not deal with the fiscal and financial fraud and corruption that is so pervasive in Connecticut. We all have our issues. We all have our issues that are important to us. And I can go down a litany of 10 issues in several of the discussion groups I'm in. What goes on in the schools is incredibly important. It's awful. It's terrible. What goes on with our, Politburo Electric Company, Eversource, and the political involvement of that, beyond terrible. Crime, Connecticut is a cesspool. And, we talked about on the Lee Elsey show on Tuesday, God help Connecticut if Connecticut ever faced something like California. The only difference would be it would happen more quickly, given the amount of competency, acuity, coordination, and communication that we have throughout the agencies in Connecticut government, reaching all the way to the top of the throne of King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable. Republicans are running around during COVID saying Ned did a good job during COVID. I wanted to slap him in the mouth. It's like, do you have any idea what you're talking about? Frankly, the only job Ned did during COVID is the one that McKinsey told him to do. Ned couldn't do anything unless you prompted him to do it. If Ned weren't governor, Ned would be sitting at the Round Hill Country Club in Greenwich, opening and closing it. Let's get real about, who Ned is and what Ned does, and stop with this state-paid nonsense of he's the most popular governor. Well, I'm the most popular husband in my home because I'm the only one. It's like it's ridiculous crap. We will never change anything until we get true facts. And people say, well, how are we going to change the media? Well, you change the media by starving them out, by not watching their garbage, by not paying attention to what they do, by calling them to shame wherever necessary. And you're not going to change anything because basically the media in Connecticut is nothing more than the press unit for demo commie Politburo land. And, don't forget that, basically. I'm not saying every single person at every single time, but that's pretty much, I think, an apt summation. I mean, I don't think you can tell me anything differently than that or tell anybody. But to me, my cause is I want to see fiscal corruption in Connecticut eradicated. There are too many people just literally robbing the state blind. And we're going to get into that. And nobody really seems to care. All of the, whatever you want to call it, the pat candidates that we have seen, not one of them has come out with, I am going to root out corruption to its core. Bob Stefanowski said, well, I'm going to audit every agency, not knowing that the state does that anyway. It's not the quality of the audit. We've been through that before. They're very good audits. The auditors of public accounts, for the most part, do excellent work. It's just the problem that the state will not prosecute what the frauds are. And basically what we get is unaccountability and just somebody to go and throw their crony into a state paid non-job that we all paid for just to do it all over again. But my first answer to that very good question of what this particular person said is, who do you want to see run for offices? I want to see somebody who's going to root out financial corruption to its very core and cause consequences. I'm not talking accountability, but I'm saying consequences to come to those that offend, because this has gone on for too long, and it's never going to change until that person comes to deal with it. So somebody running for office is going to say that, they are the new whatever, but if they don't deal with this, to me, they're useless. Today, they're nonsense. And I personally will not waste the time with them. But that being as it is, let's look at a couple of things here, if you don't mind. We're going to do a couple of screen shares. And notice how quick this new equipment is. I've got to get used to it. If you didn't read it, I'm going to assign to you the article from my pal and colleague, Bob Swick. I call Bob the Godfather. He's been dealing with Connecticut corruption ever since I was aware of it. I said to someone over the weekend that where I became aware of, and I mean, I wasn't naive. I grew up in Stamford. Stamford was a crooked town. I lived and worked a lot of years in New Haven. That had its own issues, but maybe not as much, or maybe a little bit differently. But Bob really got me focused on how terrible and awful and unaccountable Connecticut government really is. And his article on Saturday, January 11th, about the Connecticut way being the expressway to failure and unaccountability, he raises a couple of questions here. Again, go read it. But the first one that he reads us on is our Attorney General, William Tong. And William Tong has an office known as the Government Fraud Section. If you read the mission statement of the Government Fraud Section, it does all this wonderful stuff. Develops cases independently, and investigates whistleblower complaints concerning state departments, state agencies, quasi-public agencies, and large state contracts. The section also enforces Connecticut's pension revocation or reduction laws. Have you ever seen that happen? Have you ever seen that happen? I don't think I have. The The Healthcare Advocacy Unit, which provides advisory assistance to consumers of healthcare related problems, particularly those that involve health insurance and managed care coverage denials. That's kind of interesting. You mean you're actually going to do something against Hartford Healthcare? And they advise, you could read it, the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. And you go through all this wonderful stuff. The link is there. Bob so kindly furnished it, but raises a very interesting point. William Tong is the same William Tong who's advocated for prima facie tax, employment, and federal law evasion in this embrace of illegal immigration. You know, it's to have undocumented illegal immigration all over the place. That does not equal tax, employment, and insurance compliance. Believe me, it just doesn't, and it can't, and it won't. And Bob says, which I think is a good question everybody should be asking, should Democrat Attorney General William Tong turn himself in his self-appointed mission to both not cooperate with federal officials to remove illegal immigrants and failure to fully disclose the actual costs of Connecticut, since his stated mission is to work with federal law enforcement agencies and with state agencies that pay directly or indirectly for goods and services with Connecticut tax dollars. So we have window dressing. We have bureaucrats. We have bureaucratic organization, but what the hell is being done? The answer to that is, I think you know. Now, when we talk about the Connecticut way, actually didn't want to go there just yet. We will in a moment. We have this Central Connecticut State University Chancellor Terrence Chang. If you read the audit of Central Connecticut State University and you go down the abuses of this guy, particularly, you know, and he's the chancellor of the university. Now, I would think that the university could function just fine without a chancellor in some non-job, burning up money, having all kinds of fun with a chauffeur-driven car, and. He charged meals. He ordered a driving service despite having a state-owned car, and then he renegotiated his contract to get a vehicle stipend. And as one young lady asked on Twitter over the weekend, why are we getting a guy from New York? What is it with this guy? What? And not only that, but the guy's robbing for us. And then you got this other guy here, Ed Kolansky, if I've got that right. He is the president of Charter Oak State College. And he used his card to pay for $500,000 or what? We don't know. We have no idea. But he used it. Is Mr. Kolansky subject to criminal prosecution? Is Mr. Kolansky subject to restitution? Is Mr. Kolansky subject to having his professional licenses, whatever they may be, revoked for doing that? You know, dream on, Tony. Now, Sean Scanlon, our comptroller, a man whom I have said, Bob says, limited abilities and experience in this political position. Sean Scanlon knows as much about auditing and accounting and fiscal controls as I might about building the neutron bomb. He brought this out in an audit. And we go to Terrence Chang, $442,000 a year, $2,100 a month housing allowance, and $48,759 in non-retirement fringe benefits. And I'm sure that Terrence Chang, being involved in the state of Connecticut on a day-to-day basis, makes your life that much sweeter, right? You cannot get along in your life in Connecticut without Terrence Chang being there. We both know that. Let's move on. Now, you can read on and on about the trips of Terrence Chang and his P card and things like that. Now, the overseer of the fiscal malfeasance, incompetence, is Mr. Scanlon. Same auditors of public accounts. His office lacked sufficient controls and led to mistake in life insurance payments. Now, is Mr. Scanlon going to have to suffer physical loss for his screw up? I'm in a private business. If I screw up, I suffer physical loss. I must make good on that. But this guy, he's going to try to look for another higher office to run, basically. And will he ever get to account for this? Will William Tong investigate Sean Scanlon? What I could say something very unkind, but maybe I'll say it. The chances of that happening are probably as good as a bear not doing his business in the woods. But be that as it may, we have a concept here. This is how Connecticut does business. Now, none of these people are going to suffer any kind of, whatever you want to call it, bearing on them or any kind of cost for their malfeasance. That's the Connecticut way. We slap wrists. We call them out. We have hearings. We have a corruption committee. But hey, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. Now, Bob makes an interesting point. Wouldn't it be great? If I were governor, I would do this. I would make every single legislature seated read and understand. I would give them a quiz on state audits. And if they fail it, they don't get paid until they pass it. Now, wouldn't it be nice to know that as a Connecticut citizen, that your elected representative, Democrat, Republican, Maoist, Taoist, Marxist, whatever he may be, wouldn't it be nice to know that he's at least fiscally literate, that he understands things or she understands things? But see, that's the whole thing. They don't want to understand things because this way they can screw up and plead ignorance. But anyway, the unaccountability goes right to the top. Democrat governor, King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable. He said with Mr. Chang, he's confused and he'll do better next time. He'll do better next time. I mean, why is there a next time? Why do we keep the turkey? Why don't we fire the turkey and take back from him what he took back from the taxpayers? But no, that's not the Connecticut way. And Bob goes on to say, Ned has never accounted for all of the questions of all the things, all the anti-Lamont deals that were involved. It wasn't only Semaphore. It was a whole bunch of others. Ocrolus, Urginet, One Life Healthcare, Galileo Health, Castlight Health, Paladina Health. We went through all these on the Lee Elsey show. Now, we're going to get to this on the Semaphore 2% loan. We will get to that. But that was just one other thing that none of your politicians, none of your corporate mainstream media, nobody running for office, Bob Stefanowski, Matt Corey, you name it, none of them ever said a word about it. But you're going to know about it today. I think a lot of you do, but basically that's disgusting. That is beyond disgusting. How would you feel? How would you feel? You're a homeowner, you're a business owner, and you hire somebody to do something in your house, say to be a caretaker, gardener, pet sitter, or something like that. And you notice that they're stealing your pet food. And it's like, well, I mean, I've only got this one little French poodle. Why are we spending $600 a month on pet food? And the guy is basically walking all the pet food that he's buying out the back door to feed his Rottweilers and German Shepherds. How would you feel about that? I know how you'd feel about that. So why do we accept this in government? Why do we accept this lack of acuity from candidates, from politicians? Or is it a desire for ignorance? I don't know. But you see, this is the whole thing. Who do you want to run for office? I want somebody who's going to look at that. Somebody's going to pay attention to that. And if you don't understand it, and if you say it's not important, whatever, you're a freaking turkey. You're a moron. I mean, I wouldn't have you watch my house with the damn thing locked, or wash my car, my 16-year-old gas-powered car, with soft soap and a sponge. That's how incompetent you are. You do not belong there, basically. But that's the problem. We got too many that belong there. But anyway, that don't belong there but are belonging there. But when you want to talk about basically ignorance and stupidity in government, you got this guy here, Chris Stewart. Now, I guess this is a district near me. Ran for as a district representative. And obviously, this man, I do not know this man. I probably will not meet this man. But obviously, he has contemplated the fact that he has wanted to get into government. I doubt if he got up one day, on election day, and said, "Hey, I want to run." He thought about it for time, basically. Even the stupidest among us give some thought to life-changing decisions. And to all of the financial larceny, crud, malfeasance, incompetence, governance incompetence that's gone on, he makes this statement. Governor Lamont did a really good job. One thing I've always admired about him, and this is what he mentioned in the when he was being seated for his seat, he tries to be level-headed and make sure he addresses the concerns and the issues from both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans. And Bob Swick says, that comment, ladies and gentlemen, sadly speaks for itself. And it does. It does. Where the hell has this guy been? But basically, it's unfair for me to yell and scream at this guy because it's just so many of them. I want to run for government. Well, you've been in the damn state legislature for how many years and you've done nothing. And now you are, quote unquote, the shiny new penny. Or you've been in the state Senate and you've done nothing to address this fiscal malfeasance. I mean, why do I want you? What good are you, basically, to me, to anybody? Why do I have to keep paying higher taxes to support this kind of fraud, ineptness, and incompetence? Tell me, please. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, if you think that's good, it gets better. The Hartford Business Journal was looking at this over the weekend. And here's a guy who thinks it's a good idea to put a residential building up in Hartford. Now, you've got to ask yourself, what is the draw to Hartford? Losing industry, unsafe. The roads going in and out were designed by monkeys on an LSD trip. It's no one says in the world, hey, baby, let's jet off to Hartford for the weekend. But somehow this guy thinks that it is a good idea to develop property in Hartford, Connecticut. And then there is an organization behind him. We'll get into that in a moment. But he can't pay the loan on his project. Okay, now look at what's happening in Southern California with those people that lost their homes due to governmental stupidity. And yes, that can happen in Connecticut very easily because we've got a lot of stupid people in government. Simple as that, and just as difficult. But this guy here made a number of errors in judgment. We'll get into this. And says, I can't pay the interest on my loan. Help me, help me, help me. Now, if that happens to you, you're going to say bye-bye to whatever it is that you're borrowing. Try not making car payments. You got some very good people that could jack those cars back, put them in the lot, and they won't care about you not getting to work, basically. But they're only going to bear with you for some time. But this guy here is able to say, I want to hold on my loan interest. Maybe you want to hold on your credit card interest. Why don't you get a hold on your mortgage interest, on your unpaid mortgage interest? Why can't you just pay the minimum on your credit card and not have any interest accrue? Why not? Why not? He's asking for it. Why not you? Okay. He's tied in with the government. You're not. Now, this guy here, his name is Carlos Muta, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He wants to transform the former Whitney manufacturing building in Parkville into hundreds of apartments mixed with commercial space. Okay. Now you look at that and say, all right, commercial space, Hartford, Connecticut. The biggest building in Hartford, Connecticut can't get tenants. And this guy wants to build commercial space in Hartford. Now, if I went and said to you, you're the loan officer at the bank and I'm me, and I come in and say, I want to build an economically efficient and environmentally safe neutron bomb. I want a bomb that's just going to wipe out a whole bunch of stuff and then scrub it and clean it and just, make it to where I can do what I want. I can wipe out bridges. I can wipe out houses. I can wipe out anything. And, well, how do you plan to do this? Well, I'm going to do it. You're going to look at me and say, I'm not lending you anything. Now, legitimate lenders look at this and say, this is crap. This is nonsense. Why should I put my investor money into something like this? And so basically, this guy here is left to municipal financing. In other words, the government who's stupid enough to take our money and lend to something like that. Now, the CRDA, the Capital Regional Development Authority, acronym, get that through your head. I'm a tough teacher. I make you learn acronyms. They're pushing for a 9-month hold for a $4 million loan. Money's already been spent on demolition and environmental cleanup. There's the old Jew in the Bible that said, count the cost. Don't listen to old Jews. But he said, count the cost. I believe the Savior said, count the cost. This guy here, Michael Freemuth, who is the CRDA executive director, told the board that he'd be anticipating the CRDA loan into permanent financing much earlier. So what happened here was basically, we thought a bank would lend to us, but they didn't. I thought somebody would lend to my neutron bomb project, but they didn't. So I went to the state and I tried to find a lender and they said, you're an idiot, D'Angelo, get out of here. Michael Freeman said, we didn't expect for this to happen. Look, these are the people in your government. You want to run for office. You got to deal with stuff like this. And if you're not going to deal with stuff like this, if you're going to keep funding these useless economic projects, if you're going to walk around with the Connecticut should be abolished DECD like Bob Stefanowski did and say, this is going to be something incredibly wonderful. We're going to, it's like, listen, I drive around with a 16-year-old car happily. But I asked my car techs to say, look at that chassis. Look at that chassis and tell me if the chassis is rusting. Thank God the chassis is just fine. But if the chassis is rusting, I'm not going to do body work. It's called counting the cost. The DECD, which has lost incredible amounts of money, why do you keep feeding the monkey in government? Why does government keep feeding the monkey? Because you got stupid politicians and a non-existent media and a few souls like me saying you've got to stop doing it, and they won't do it. They won't do it. They're looking to get their fingers into the next thing, basically. Freeman says he's sympathetic. He's sympathetic. How sympathetic would your bank be if you couldn't pay your mortgage for a year? I mean, I have a very good neighbor who lost her house. Husband died. Made a couple of very bad financial decisions, sadly, due to ignorance. I didn't know her then. I couldn't help her then. Helped her as best as I could when I knew her. But basically, the bank, who was a very tough German outfit, basically said, screw you, sweetie. But if you're tied into government, there's sympathy. There's sympathy for you. The members of the committee who were spending none of their money were similarly understanding towards Muda, who's been behind most of the recent development in the Parkville neighborhood, God help us all. Instead of a proposed 6-month hold on interest, members voted to support 9 months. Okay. I can't pay my mortgage. I go to my bank, the Waldo Von Erich Bank and Trust Company. and I say, Mr. Von Erich, I can't pay my mortgage. Oh, Mr. D'Angelo, how much time do you need? 6 months, sir. I'm going to give you 9. No, basically, he's going to kick me out. Is this not sickening to you? If it's not sickening to you, there's something wrong with you. Now, Muda says he's confident of locking down financing. Okay, who's going to lend? I mean, if you are a lending officer, don't you want to know who's going to do what you're going to do? I mean, basically. Now, he had a plan for historic tax credit, and it would have made him not do certain things. I mean, is this guy giving any thought to or is he just dreaming? Is he just taking money from the state, basically, and going about his business? I mean, these are things I want to know. So he goofed on the tax credits, and he says, I can't take poison money that requires me to increase the cost. A lot of things come with strings. Well, Mr. Muda, what were you thinking about when you built this thing? Did you not consider all the possibilities? Hate Donald Trump as much as you want, people. And I know there's people out there that cannot hate Donald Trump enough. But somehow Donald Trump's projects got built. And they got built, and the banks were paid, and everybody was happy. Why is that? Why did Donald Trump's projects get paid, and everybody walked away, and they said, this is just great, but this guy here is on the hoof, and we as taxpayers will have to bail him out. So what he's doing is he's increasing the apartments. Now, let me tell you something. I was in the building industry as a younger man. And when that happens, there's often a fire code issue. Like, for example, the building I am in has one entrance and one exit. It's, the world famous barn. Now, if I wanted to put something else in here with another person, and God forbid there was a fire, and we both were running to the door, only one of us could get out at a time. This is what goes on. And many times things get built because, shall we say there is pressure involved, or dead presidents pass under a table. So basically, is this now getting to the point of unsustainability and unsafety, or shall I say a lack of safety, because the original safety model has been violated? It's a consideration. And he's talking with people. Isn't that great? And life goes on. So basically, he's going to go ahead and do this. And is there any accountability for the economic sustainability of this project? Who's going to live there? Who's going to work there? I mean, the state of Connecticut going to hire more people? I mean, private industry ain't coming into Hartford, people. Why would they? Why should they? Now, if I open up my Hartford Current, I'll see this. You got another guy wants $7 million. Spectra Construction and Development Company. And actually, I can't really highlight this particular article. He wants properties on Main Street. And it's CRDA is providing more financing. Now, ask yourself something. They went to this guy. Now they're going to lend here. Where is the economic benefit? How do I benefit as a Connecticut taxpayer? Because these people just like lending money and watching buildings go up, and we don't even know who's going to live in the building, and we're certainly not getting people into work in Hartford. Listen, I mean, it goes back to what Bob Swick was saying here. All these people taking money makes no difference to them, and they want us to pay for it. Now, the neat things in these apartments, that's all great. That's all fine. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to live in that apartment. And we're excited. We're going to do these wonderful things, and we're converting. And here's Mr. Freemuth again. The new projects add momentum, and surrounding a park with residential properties well within our reach. The reach of my pocket, Mr. Freemuth? And it's just this entire thing of these are not affordable rents. $13.75 to $19.95. There's no amenity fees. I mean, until something goofs up in the project, and then you're over here where this guy is. So basically, these things are just going up. You have idiots in our legislature who are walking around saying, we need housing, we need housing, we need housing. What? Who's coming into the state? We are number 10 in the move out category per the U-Haul survey. That's a real survey. We can't get enough of those moving vans in the state for people to come here. So who are we getting? Illegal aliens? Are we getting, graduate students who basically will live on borrowed money until they leave town? I mean, what is making, but then our universities are in trouble. Yeah, they're in trouble because, we've got people like, Mr. Chang, who basically is just taken from whatever else. It's absolutely amazing. But it's like, what I want you to look at, actually, I'll stop the share here if I can. What I want you to look at, what I want you to consider is, who do you want to run for office? I want somebody who's going to deal with that mess. I want somebody that's going to take those audits and prosecute people. I want somebody that's going to get to things, who will get the best minds in the state to basically stop the tax monster, stop the union monster, and just basically make it a good place for business. I mean, location's good, basically. You've got, you're between New York, you're between Boston. Yeah, they're both horrible places right now, but that can all change. But basically, you could get good things happening here, but you're not going to do it with nonsense like that, basically. But what it comes down to is, why, of all these people running for office, they've never dealt with this. And it's so obvious and it's so pervasive. And it's just like, it becomes almost like, well, listen, I'm going to be very crude here. More people, well, I can't even really say that anymore, but there was used to be a time when dad went to work and mom stayed home. But yet there were certain mothers in certain neighborhoods that basically had a lot of friends, and, the postman, the milkman, the oil man, and, that sort of thing. And they managed to clean house until the kid came home. And it's just basically, that's that kind of thing. And everybody in the neighborhood just kind of say, that's Mrs. So-and-so, she's loose, she's this, she's that. Ha ha. That ha ha attitude has pervaded Connecticut fiscal malfeasance and Connecticut incompetence for too many years. And I want to see it stop. So I'm not going to be backing anybody who's not going to be dealing with that, basically. It's no longer it's acceptable, nor should it be. And those people who are in a position to run against something like that and not dealing with it, you're just as bad, if not worse, because you can do something about it and you refuse to. So basically, and that brings to mind all sorts of incredible permutations. But let's just look at a couple of other things here if we can. And I'm going to go back to the screen share. And I want you to look at something here. This goes back to a tweet I did. This would have been in 2023, I believe. And I've blown this up. We had you may be watching me, you may be watching this for the first time, because I get, new friends in from all over the country. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I am sorry, for your sake, that this is a Connecticut centric presentation, but these are things you need to look out for in your own state. We had a corporation here called Semaphore, SEMA4. And it was an equity invested in by the wife of the governor, King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable, Anne Lamont, who basically, from what I understand, for the last State of the State speech, has become an accepted partner in government. Because when the unaccountable greeted everybody, he greeted his wife. You know, we've even had a respectable, whatever you want to call it, a respected uh, mainline Republican columnist, Kevin Rennie of the Hartford Courant, infer very strongly that Anne Lamott should get involved with the healthcare system. It's, this is basically it. We're so much in the gutter in Connecticut, we just might as well get cross any ethical line. It makes no difference whatsoever. It's fine. It's okay. It's like the loose unit mother on the street. But basically, there was a brouhaha. I discovered it of Semaphore getting a no bid contract for COVID testing. Now, that should have been jail time, basically. That should have been orange jumpsuit territory. That should have been these people. The Lamont should never, ever, ever get involved with any business again, ever in the state of Connecticut. But yet we had Republican candidates saying that Ned Lamont did a good job during COVID. Yeah, he did a great job of padding his pocket. And, there was a little pushback. It was disgusting. It was disgraceful. And it was clownish, basically. And people yelling and screaming for a while, not even knowing what to look at, where to go, and what to do. But I keep this before you because this to me is the gold standard of malfeasance, incompetence, and arrogance. This is the state of Connecticut giving you poor person running around, working in the garage, fixing cars, carrying drinks to people in the casino. This is a huge middle finger from that landed gentry in the state of Connecticut right in your eye. But basically, one of the things, and I brought this stuff out then, okay, this wasn't a case of ignorance. I didn't know. Semaphore borrowed money from the state. I mean, remember this guy here who just says, hey, I got a nice face. I don't want to pay my bills. Can you give me a little malfeasance? Give me a little malfeasance. Unfortunately, we've got malfeasance. Could you give me a little forbearance? But basically, Semaphore went to the should be abolished Department of Economic and Community Development and said, I want to borrow money. And they said, yeah, sure. We'll lend you $15.5 million. But here's the thing. Lend you the money at 2%. 2% money. 2% simple interest. Now, what's your mortgage? What's your credit card rate? What's your car loan rate? Sure, it's not 2%, but the state lent money at 2% to an entity owned by the governor's family to deal with the state. And that's okay. That's okay. And all these clowns and fools and morons that are in not everybody is a clown, fool, and moron, but unfortunately we got too many. But basically, no, there's never been a mention of that from them. You will hear this from me till my dying day. This is sickening. This is beyond despicable. And I mean, to all you idiots out there who think I am some sort of a arm of the state media, what do you think they think of me when I'm doing this? I mean, is there something wrong with you? It's a number of you. I mean, you've told me some of the stupidest things imaginable, which is why I do not bother to answer you. Give me something answerable and I will answer you. Enough of that. But anyway, 2%. That's all right. Fine. You think that's bad? Again, you try pulling this yourself. There's something, I should say this. Normally, when you borrow money, very few people in this world can borrow money with no collateral, with nothing to give back, because lenders lend good money and they want to get paid back. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The United States lends money. The United States issues bonds. And, if I, as a trust officer, tell my investment people to put money in treasury bonds, I hope to get paid back, basically. But the United States has what's known as the full faith and credit of the United States. the United States has never, ever, ever missed an interest payment. Now, if I go into the bank with my neutron bomb project and they're going to say, well, what do you have for collateral, Mr. D'Angelo? I've got my mutt. I've got my mutt Cody, Mr. Muttface. You can have him as collateral. No, there's no marketability in that dog. So that's basically it. So the rest of us have to put something up. If you borrow on a house, they come and take the house if you don't pay the bill. You borrow on a car, they'll come and it's self-generating collateral. But when you get to commercial loans, it's known as a loan guarantee. So somebody has to, shall we say, guarantee that loan if this loan does not get paid back. And they want to get paid. They have absolutely every right to get paid. So when the state of Connecticut lent this 2% loan to Semaphore, they asked for a loan guarantee. Now, if you look in this, I didn't bring it out, but basically the loan guarantee was 5-year-old computer equipment. I get a pile of 5-year-old computer equipment here that nobody wants. I mean, there's this very nice older gentleman that put together a group of older gentlemen I've seen on the news that take old computers and refurbish them and hand them out to people that can't afford them. That's a great thing. But basically, the old equipment has no value. But when Semaphore went public in the SPAC offering, the pump part of the pump and dump, they had their guarantee released. So in other words, this money, which is owed the state of Connecticut at 2%, if they don't pay the 2%, state of Connecticut doesn't get anything. And, we're effectively sucking up the difference. Now, to my knowledge, they have been paying the interest. But basically, you try doing that. And when this kind of stuff goes on with a related party, with the governor of the state, and people are running for office saying, I want to be the governor. I want to run for Congress. I want to run for Senate. And you pay no attention to this, man, you are a freaking turkey. It's the only thing I can possibly say. You do not belong in office. And why should I take 1 minute of my time to pay attention to you if you can't fathom what I did? Now, each one of my listeners got this. The people that are devoted to what I may do here in this program, they get it, but you're running for office and you pay no attention to it. So it's this to me, actually, I do want to review what we've done here. Read the Swick Speak article. This is really the Connecticut way. What is the Connecticut way? People like that can come in and stop the clock and not pay interest and make bad decisions, and we don't know what the heck they're doing, and there's zero accountability, and the entire legislature looks the other way. But this CRDA will continue to loan more on properties. We don't know it's a city in Hartford, Connecticut that is not a magnet, not an attraction. It's not attracting industry. There's nobody wanting to come there to do anything at all, basically, but yet we're lending money. Taxpayer money's going for it. If you are connected with the state of Connecticut, you can borrow money at 2%. And not only that, but you can put up no collateral and you can deal with the state. Okay, I'm going to stop this here. Is any of that acceptable to you? If it is acceptable to you, we live on different planets. This is probably when you actually take it and you put it together and you put the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together, this has got to be one of the most sickening messes conceivable. You want to run for office. Here's my litmus test. And this is the one that I am going to put to you. Deal with the corruption, deal with the malfeasance, deal with the financial abuses. If you don't belong in office. People running for office this time around, I don't think they know what's coming to them, but it's not going to be pretty. But yet it needs to be necessary. Not that I have anything against these people per se. I don't even know them. I really don't care to know them, and I don't think they really care to know me. But basically, if you won't deal with the financial issues and the stresses and the frauds and the backdoor deals and all that, you're not going to deal with anything, because you are not going to be the person that's going to sit there and say, well, that's a useless program. Oh, that's redundant. Oh, that's just, somebody feeding their homeboys or homegirls. And basically it all comes down to the pocketbook. It all comes down to the pocketbook. If you have control of the pocketbook, you have control of a lot of other things, because in just about everything, because you will keep control of that pocketbook by keeping control of everything else by definition. That's just the way it is. My mother would always say, and she's absolutely right, God rest her soul, your best friend is your pocketbook. Be that person running for office that deals with the pocketbook, and be that person who calls for financial accountability, financial scrutiny, and financial punishment and legal punishment for those in this state, from King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable, all the way down, who have abused this nonsense time and time and time and time again. That game has to end. Run for office. This is what you have to do. I want you out there watching me, watching this, to apply that litmus test to anybody professing to run for anything at all. We've had too many paper tigers, clowns, pretenders, incompetents. I'm going to save the world and I can't save anything at all. Here today's gone tomorrow's. We've had too many of them. None of them today is giving us any value as you and I are sitting here. Let's stop that. Let's end that right now. And I'm going to end this segment. It's Tony D'Angelo here on 30 with Tony. We'll be right back with the rest of the show right after this.
Myself, why should I work so hard? Sit and dream about the days to come. Half undressed, just soaking up the sun. Sitting here, I hope I don't get fried. 2 years ago, I almost died. And yet there's nothing better for your soul than lying in the sun and listen to rock and roll. Sunny days, oh, sunny days. Ain't nothing better in the world, than lying in the sun with your radio. Sunny days, oh, sunny days. Ain't nothing better in the world, than lying in the sun. There's nothing quite so fine as letting the sun rejuvenate your mind. Don't get me wrong, I really dig the moon, but it was 4 in the afternoon when I wrote this tune. And now the sun's about to fade away. I'm feeling better than I felt for days. There's nothing better for your soul than lying in the sun and listen to rock and roll. Sunny days, oh, sunny days. Ain't nothing better in the world, than lying in the sun with your radio. Sunny days, oh, sunny days. Ain't nothing better in the world, than lying in the sun with your radio.
Hello fun seekers. Since we like to mix fun with business, please enjoy another video classic clip, courtesy of the producers of 30 with Tony.
It's classic clip time, Chimosabis, and on 30 with Tony we support elected officials reading to kids, but not this pornographic crap, so watch how it's done from the great Ferrello LaGuardia.
Here's Dick Tracy. Let's see what Dick Tracy is doing. Now, you remember, and we hear wet wash. Listen, baby, I know you're a maid at Van Hoosen's. I saw you there last week, and I know there's something phony about that dough. Now, when we get it, it's going to be 50-50. Okay? Then maybe you'd like some more of your laundry torn to pieces. Rip! She's ripping her laundry there, and a little delicate piece of lingerie. Now, get this picture. Here is wet wash. The doors of the laundry wagon are open. He's leaning with his back toward the wagon, and he's counting his money. 2, 3, 4,000. And the picture's a hand of breathless, stretching out. She's got hold of that iron pot. Remember the iron pot she took from the Van Hoosen's gardener's flat to put the money in? And crash! She crashes on his head. Knocked out. And say, children, what does it all mean? It means that dirty money never brings any luck. No, dirty money always brings sorrow and sadness and misery and disgrace.
Lead And now with you as inspiration, I look toward a destination, sunny bright that once before was blue. I have no more than I did before, but now I've got all that I need. For I love you and I know you love me. So take my hand, I'll start my journey, free from all the helpless worry that besets a man when he's alone. More strength is mine when we're together, and with you I know I'll never have to pass the high road for the low. I have no more than I did before, but now I've got all that I need. For I love you and I know you love me. Play, magic fingers. I love you and I know you love me.
Well, thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. And I realize we're coming up on Martin Luther King's birthday, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And from what I understand, he was really a funny man. You know, in society, when people pass on and they become historical figures and we look at very stoic pictures and we see statues and we see monuments and we see things named after them, we often forget that they were people. And more than one person has said through the years that Dr. Martin Luther King was an incredibly funny man. One story I heard was he was on the Johnny Carson show, which to you kids was a variety show, late night show, going back years and years and years. This was in the 1960s. I don't know how many years before he was killed. But he had mentioned to Johnny Carson that he was in a plane, and the pilot announced that he was going to turn back the plane because the plane had mechanical difficulties. And Dr. King said, you know, I became very nervous. And Johnny Carson said, but, you know, you are this great man of faith and power. Why would you be nervous? You know, you're a minister of God. He said, well, yes, Johnny, I am a minister of God and I am a Baptist minister, but I've had a lot more experience with God on the ground than I had in the air. Unbelievable. God bless you, Dr. King, for all the great work you did. And this is one of the reasons I'm here. I believe in equal rights for all people. My calling is that poor citizen in the state of Connecticut who really doesn't get much of anything from government, any way, shape, or form. Well, we're working to change that. And oh boy, you think it's hot now? It's going to get a whole lot hotter, let me tell you. It's Tony D'Angelo here on 30 with Tony. Thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us, and we'll be back and see you next week with an even greater show. So long.